Welcome back to the Gentleman's Gazette. Jack is here visiting GGHQ from across the pond. Good to have you here, Jack.
Thanks, Preston.
Yep, and we are discussing today why getting too hung up on gendered clothing might ultimately be doing your wardrobe a disservice. So Jack, the idea for this video was yours originally. Can you tell me a little bit about where it came from?
Sure. So within the Gentleman's Gazette office culture, we like to share a lot about what we buy, what we come across in terms of our style inspiration, etc. And in my trips to Italy for Pitti Uomo, I've definitely come across other people wearing things like silk scarves and other items in their wardrobe in a very stylish way that has kind of sparked this curiosity for me. And I suppose even before that, I was incorporating elements into my wardrobe that were technically ladies, but I feel very comfortable wearing.
Sure, okay. Well, very good. We have a number of questions here that will dive a little bit deeper on that topic, so we'll jump right into those. So what then would be your main reasons for breaking some of those boundaries, so to speak, and choosing some of these items to put into your wardrobe that might be at least marketed as being for women?
From my point of view, there's a couple of reasons. Mostly scale, but also the fact that there are some of these things that are marketed or sold in the ladies section of a department store that are actually unisex items in their history. They've just become more feminine or female over time.
Sure. So would there be a couple of examples that come to top of mind for these sort of originally unisex items that now find themselves in the ladies section?
Absolutely. Espadrilles would be one of the top things. So in the UK, we have Primark as our big fast fashion chain. And it was around one summertime when my other half, Kaylee, returned from a successful shopping trip. Of course, in the UK, we don't really get summer in any great straits. Which means that I don't particularly like spending a lot of money on summer clothes because I don't get a lot of use out of them.
Right.
But of course, for those rare sunny days, it's useful to have something like a pair of espadrilles. Kaylee had come home and she had this fantastic pair of really simplistic, classic looking espadrilles on. I think they were £7 or about $10. And they looked great on her. And because we share a shoe size, I gave them a go. I thought, well, they're an espadrille. We've already done a video all about the origins of espadrilles.
Indeed we have.
And they looked great. They felt very comfortable. So the next day I went back and picked up a couple of pairs for myself. So obviously these things are from the ladies section at Primark. And I think some men would definitely feel very weirded out or conscious about going specifically to the ladies section to pick up an item of clothing. But of course, as soon as you're able to shelve that and realise, hey, this is a unisex item, as soon as it's being worn, it doesn't matter anymore. The where you purchased it from is no longer an issue. Similarly, sticking with shoes, we have here a pair of slippers or house shoes from Bohill and Elliott. As I mentioned, we share a shoe size, and this benefits me greatly because these are actually my oldest pair. But as soon as I introduced Kaylee to the brand, she caught the bug. So she's added a couple of very cool pieces to her collection, which of course I might occasionally get use out of.
Sure, fair enough. And of course with Bohill and Elliott in particular, that's a brand that is fairly local to you, if memory serves?
Correct, yeah. It's 20 minutes down the road for me, which makes the ability to go and shop together. And it's actually a really fun experience doing that. Kind of picking out some designs that we both like, to be able to stretch the investment and reduce the cost per wear of an item between the two of us. So if you get something like this, for instance, or maybe a black velvet, I know that they do leather options as well, which is closer to like a traditional loafer. But yeah, something like a black velvet with a simple crest or design, we can both wear it in different ways. And the only thing that is really an issue is when it comes to us both wanting to wear it at the same time.
Right, exactly. Yeah. No, that's a good point. I remember earlier on in my menswear journey, this was probably 10-ish years ago, back when, there was a proliferation of blogs circulating around the internet on various menswear topics. There was one, basically a text and image only blog. I believe it was called Dress Like a Grown-Up, if memory serves. And one tip that I took from one of these many blog postings is the guy who wrote this blog said, if you're looking to inject more color into your wardrobe, and if you want to do something kind of snazzy and, let's say, match the color of your socks to the color of your shirt. Well, if you're wearing a classic sort of pastel colored shirt in a light cream yellow or a pink or something like that, and the men's section in the department store doesn't have a corresponding color of socks, well, chances are that the ladies section might have some of those pastel-colored socks, and ultimately, a sock is a sock. So as long as you've got the right foot size, then you're set there. So, as you say, it's kind of about being willing to just put aside that attitude of self-consciousness of, ooh, what if somebody sees me in the ladies section? But if you're picking up something that's going to serve an outfit, then that's really the more important point, Absolutely,
yeah. I'm not really prepared to sacrifice style for any sort of hang-ups around, oh, this is from the ladies section. Because ultimately, if it can be worn in a way that you think is stylish and is in line with those classic style principles that we all know and love, then who cares about the origin? Of course, no one's going to know unless you tell them.
Right.
And with that in mind, actually, the other item that I think is probably, it has that element of the unisex, but is definitely viewed more as a female item than that unisex, like an espadrille, would be the silk scarves that I enjoy wearing. I've got one on today which is closer to a neckerchief, which of course, if you know the illustrations from Lawrence Fellows and in our ebook, the golden age of menswear, these were worn a lot as an alternative piece of neckwear. If you're during the weekend not wearing a tie or a bow tie, but still want to have something on, not necessarily for warmth, but perhaps for an injection of colour into an outfit, then yeah, absolutely, something like this would have been worn. And this one in particular, I get a huge amount of use from. It's great with an outfit like I'm wearing today, or with a pair of denim jeans. But these larger ones that I have here, these are definitely, I mean, you can see that sort of thing is certainly kind of going to be considered more of a feminine thing in principle.
Potentially, yeah.
I kind of find that when you fold it in a specific way and wear it as if it were a standard scarf like you would do to keep you warm, tuck it into an overcoat. Double-breasted is fantastic, of course, because the flap over is wide, so you get this great little pop of colour, which for me is kind of more reminiscent of an ascot or a cravat.
Exactly, yeah, and that's what I was going to say as well, is that these, because the size is larger than, say, a pocket square, for instance, but the material is often as sort of thin or soft or maybe even kind of sheer. It's not nearly as dense as an actual scarf would be. It can be worn in a multitude of ways. As you say, it can serve as a proxy or perhaps an even more casual version of a day cravat or an ascot, but it can also be worn in a similar capacity to a scarf with outerwear, so it can kind of pull double duty in that regard. And, to continue on with this specific example that you've pulled, it might, in some circles, be considered sort of a feminine design, but there are also ways that you could, let's say, legitimize it, so to speak, by incorporating other elements into your outfit. For example, if you happen to be wearing a pair of horse-bit loafers with gold jewelry, well then that very clearly kind of ties into the motif that's going on here. Or perhaps it could be incorporated in the watch band that you're wearing, or in your belt, or in your jewelry, or whatever the case may be. And in menswear, as in other disciplines like music, for instance, there's a phrase out there, a shout out to the music YouTuber Adam Neely. The phrase is, repetition legitimizes. So if you can tie it into other elements of your outfit, as I say, then people will look at you and think, oh, everything is of a piece there in that outfit.
Exactly, and I think that is one of the main things when shopping for something like this, is the colours and the pattern are really the first thing that I'm looking at. I kind of discard any ideas of, oh, this may have been a women's scarf to begin with. It's more about the fact that, for instance, this one works because it's simple, right? It's a black background with elements of gold and a few highlights in white. Mm-hmm. It's 3 colours, very simple, and once it's folded up and you're only really seeing flashes of things, in, like you say, in the same way that you would do a pocket square, it's even more easy to combine it. It's just the fact that a lot of these are displayed with the pattern out, because that's where all the work's gone. The artisans want to show, mm-hmm. Oh, this is all of the skill that's gone into making this. Whereas I think, similarly, like I say, with the pocket square, you rarely see the full design.
Right.
It's either you're focusing on that little bit in the middle or those little bits on the edge. So apply that same thinking to something like a silk scarf, and to the point about it replacing a classic men's scarf, it's far more portable. Mm-hmm. It's lighter. This is great to pop in a bag, even if it's on a day where you think, I might need a scarf, but I'm not sure. Transitional seasons in particular, you don't want to take a heavy wool scarf with you and feel like you're not dressing to the correct season. Mm-hmm. So something like this is absolutely perfect because it is lightweight, but silk has interesting insulating properties for the sort of the volume and scale. It's quite a great fibre for those sorts of things. And of course, you can also, the menswear expert kind of gets excited about things like the hand-rolled edge. Sure. And all of the things that we enjoy in other accessories like a tie or, in, like we say, a pocket square. It's just a bigger scale, essentially. Absolutely. And depending on both the material and the pattern, if one is present, these can also be dressed up or dressed down. This black one here is kind of on the more formal end. The blue one with the polka dots that you've got here could really sort of pull double duty, I think, that, you know, depending on whether or not you show the polka dots or more of the solid sections, which are actually kind of a subtle checkerboard pattern in the weave here. Mm-hmm. And then the one that you're wearing can be dressed down a little bit more in kind of a country style ensemble, such as the one that you're wearing today. You could even dress it down a little bit further to almost get into that kind of bandana mindset if you were going for kind of a Western wear thing. I know, for example, the Hollywood director Peter Bogdanovich was known for wearing neckerchiefs, and I think he may have had some influence from the great Western director John Ford there in doing that. But people would often ask him, why do you wear an ascot? And he would be quick to say, it's not an ascot, it's a neckerchief, because he embraced that kind of rugged, classically masculine thing. So it can dress up or dress down quite well. Yeah, for sure. And I actually like the fact that it has that ascot feel. It ties into that old world classic style aesthetic, but to my mind is just a touch more versatile, especially for a more modern mindset that might be potentially put off by something that's as classic as an ascot. I mean, I think an ascot is wonderful, but it's great to have options, right?
Absolutely. Yep. So another reason somebody might want to seek out these sort of supposedly ladies' clothing choices is the question of scale. Can you speak a little bit more on that?
Absolutely. And I think this is something that potentially you and I in particular would share a lot of views on, from the point of view that we're tall guys, but we're slim guys.
Yes.
With perhaps more of a slight wrist than the typically masculine version of a product is designed to fit nowadays. There's a lot that I see online around watch size, and the ideal watch size being 38 mils is the go-to. 40 is going to fit everyone. Personally, any sort of watch with a 40mm dial on my wrist looks like I'm wearing someone else's watch.
I am exactly the same way.
So with that in mind, some of these ladies' watches, again, they're just mid-size watches. Some of the luxury watches do actually use that phrasing, which I much prefer. I think Omega use mid-size for their sort of 36 to 38mm range, which I think is fantastic because there's no stigma around, oh, you can't buy this, it's a lady's watch. But yeah, I've definitely, so for instance, the watch that I have coveted for so long now, the Cartier Tank, is a perfect example of that mid-size watch, what would now be considered a lady's style, fitting my wrist better and more attractively than a man's version of this watch.
Yep.
I think from a proportions point of view, I've always preferred, especially when it comes to things like a watch, seeing elements of the strap either side of the dial when it's on my wrist. If I can only see the dial from wrist, the top to the bottom of my wrist, it feels clunky. And not only that, I've got to get a custom strap because it's only going to be that much strap on either side.
Right, yep.
With that in mind, I've recently acquired these two. This is a vintage Loris digital watch. And you can see the strap is particularly petite, but it fits so comfortably because it's not obstructing my wrist movement. It just sits on the wrist nicely. And the dial itself is quite unobtrusive. I mean, for a digital watch, you wouldn't really say that's a digital.
No.
Because the face is so small. It's more about the design of the octagonal dial. Again, I feel like these square and tank style watches just look better on a wider range of wrists. Now, would this fit Raphael? It would fit him from a size point of view, but would it suit Raphael?
Right.
Probably not. He'd do better off with the tank for sure. But again, it's about the fact that the ladies' watch works better on my wrist. Now, this one definitely is a ladies' watch from the point of view of it was always designed for a female wrist. However, I love the fact that it's got this elasticated strap. It's a manual wind, which I'm fine with. I don't actually need a watch to tell the time nowadays. It's definitely just a piece of jewellery that I enjoy wearing. But it was £6, so...
How are you going to pass that up?
Exactly. Yeah. Thrift store, what would that translate to? About $8?
Somewhere in that neighborhood, yeah.
So just an everyday knockabout watch on my wrist for less than $10. I'm more than happy to just slip this on and kind of forget about it. I'm not worried about scratching it or anything. Like if I were wearing this in an environment where I'd be concerned, then I'm not going to be enjoying whatever else is going on. This I can wear and just not care about. But that probably speaks more to the price point of it.
Sure.
The scale of it, again, the face is decently sized enough that it sits neatly on my wrist. And granted, this is going to be different for you if you have a larger wrist. But from my point of view, it fits just fine, and I've only received compliments, not criticism,
Yeah.
on the fact that I'm wearing a watch designed for ladies.
Yeah, absolutely. The one that you're actually wearing in today's video, so this one is a little bit larger in comparison. Do you know what range this one would be from, whether men's, ladies, mid-size, what have you?
So it's a Lincoln. I don't know enough about the brand. I'll be honest, I saw it at a flea market. I loved the design of it, and it was wonderfully inexpensive at around that $30 range.
Yep.
So, hey, I'll go for it. It's mid-century, very, very cool. But what I can imagine, based on the fact that it is in that sort of 1960s sort of time zone, in terms of design, not
so to speak, yeah.
It's not a time traveler's watch. It would definitely. This feels like it was a man's watch,
I would say so, yeah.
and that's something else. Historically, men wore smaller watches. It's only within, what would you say, the last 30?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
The last 30 years?
Kind of the idea that bigger is better, you know, seeing in watches or in vehicles or what have you. It all kind of speaks to that idea of certain brands or marketing professionals figuring out the psychology of customers and, in some senses, preying on insecurity of the customer. Actually, where my mind went was I had seen, I think it was in a business journal or something, people talking about the Five Guys burger chain, how they have marketed their smallest burger size as being the little burger or the little cheeseburger. And supposedly the reason for that is men are less likely to want to order something called the little cheeseburger, so they feel as though they need to then go up to the double patty, which is the regular or what have you, which of course costs more. So all of these little kind of psychological tricks, but in any case, all of that to say, yes, you know, I think the tendency has been over the last, let's say, 30 or so years for watches marketed to men to just get bigger and bigger to the point where it can look as though you're just wearing a clock on your wrist. But yes, historically, men's watches did tend to be smaller in size than they are these days.
Indeed, and actually bringing up that point about marketing and the ability to sell more, I think it's, with watches, I think it stands in the complete opposite to what I was mentioning about here, and the fact that my partner and I can wear the same thing. For the manufacturer, for the company that made it, they've sold one less pair of shoes, not for me and for Kaylee. With watches, they can market the men's watch and the ladies' watch.
Right.
So buy two, even though one in a sort of moderate size would fit both men and women. So yeah, that's probably a very big part as to why a men's size needs to be bigger. It's so that they can sell two.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've given us a little selection or cross-section of some of your items here, the slippers and the scarves and the watches and so on. Are there other elements in your wardrobe that aren't sitting here in front of us today that also fit the bill in this regard?
Well, obviously the espadrilles.
Right, yes, of course.
But I'm always on the lookout to see if I can add more that would be considered ladies. I'm not from some sort of point of view where it's become a goal to outfit with as many things marketed to ladies as possible and just try to catch out other menswear aficionados and say, you like this thing? Haha, it's actually from a ladies section. That's not the intention. For me, it's more a case of having an open mind. As to the collection as it stands, yes, I've got more silk scarves at home. I think I might have one or two more watches at home that would be considered ladies, and perhaps my signet ring, which again, This is a size that would absolutely not fit Raphael.
Right.
I think he has tried before and he couldn't get it past his fingernail on his pinky. So I don't know whether this was just a man's from way back when men were typically smaller, or whether it was a lady's signet, because they did exist.
Yep.
But otherwise, I'm open-minded. As to the collection at the moment, small, but growing.
Sure, absolutely. Well, and if we, again, take the historical view, there are plenty of items of clothing that have sort of run the gamut on the gender spectrum, let's say. We've done several historical overviews of different hats, and you look at both the fedora and the trilby, two hats which were originally marketed to women, and actually both had their origins either in the theater or in books, as the case may be, named after female heroines of the stories in question. So these were originally women's hats, and over time came to be men's hats. Or we look at, French royalty wearing high heels, which of course now we would typically associate with women, but kings wore them as well. So there are plenty of things that have ping-ponged around that sort of challenge that gender binary in clothing, and ultimately it just speaks to, again, that question of wear whatever you like and whatever you think looks good on you, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. Of course, men historically have been more of the elegant peacock than women. And then, of course, I think it may have been Mr. Beau Brummel that started this turnaround. I think a lot of people will look towards the 60s and the era of Mad Men, when the suit became refined and distilled to jacket, trousers, shirt, tie, done. But I think it actually started a lot sooner with Beau Brummel, essentially doing away with a lot of embroidery, high heels, elements of the outfit that added flair, colour and personality. But of course women continued to do that. And as soon as one group stops doing something, it just shines a light on the fact that the other group are doing it.
Right, it becomes siloed in that regard, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Are there any examples that you've seen out in the wild about negativity related to this subject, male versus female clothing, etc.?
Yeah, so there's one instance that I witnessed. It was my first time to New York. J Press was on the list as a classic preppy destination. Wanted to go and check it out myself. I like what they do, etc. And we were browsing. Another customer comes in with his wife, and this guy was a shorter guy. Nothing wrong with that. And he spoke to the store clerk, who said, "Oh, hello, how can I help you today?" "Yes, I'm looking for some shoes, please." "Certainly, sir. What size?" "I'll take an 8, please," he says. His wife recognizes us and goes, "Oh, honey, we wear the same size." This guy did not take that kindly. He kind of flew off the handle a little bit. It was one of those things where it's like, okay, this is an issue for you, clearly. He was very defensive. No, it's not the same. Women's 8 and men's 8 are completely different. To which point, of course, as I mentioned before, sharing the same size shoes as my partner, it was hard to comprehend, like, dude, calm down. What's the issue? It's just a number.
Right.
And as we know about so many things when it comes to clothing, there's the vanity element of sizes, etc. It's just to help the store clerk help you get the right sort of fit for your feet. Ultimately, when you're wearing those shoes, no one's going to know what size they are. They might look at your shoes and take a guess. Equally, if a guy of, I don't know, 5'7" is wearing a size 11,
right,
that's going to look a bit odd. So yeah, that was I suppose that was an instance of negativity around this concept that men and women can't have the same size even of shoe, even though it was just a remark that his wife had made.
Right.
I suppose I didn't really see the need to get so hung up about it.
No, I think that probably speaks more to some latent insecurity on this on the part of this particular gentleman. But again, by grappling with that insecurity or refusing to grapple with it, let's say, if anything, you're probably just closing off more avenues to yourself, style-wise.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, but those sorts of first impressions that we give to people, or he may never see this store clerk again, but I can imagine it kind of coloured the transaction in a particular way, sort of thinking, oh, this guy's going to be difficult to deal with.
Right.
And ultimately, if you're just able to say, yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, exactly. That's really all that needed to have been said in that moment. And who knows, maybe he had a bad day, but he seemed to be very, very taken aback by the idea that he has the same size as a lady's foot.
Interesting. Have you ever been called out for wearing ladies' clothes?
Luckily, no. And I think this probably has something to do with the fact that, as you know, I'm relatively heavily involved within the sartorial community, and there's actually more support than there is ostracization that I've seen, at least. I think Instagram has been a really useful tool for me in being able to literally test out. You know, you can ask people that are viewing your stories, do you like this, yes or no? And if you get an overwhelming response of no, then it's like, that's X amount of people might be onto something. Equally, X amount of people have said that, I'm going to wear it anyway. So I think, although I've not experienced any negativity about it, I'm prepared to.
Yeah.
There's always going to be the guy in the store that that doesn't take as well to the concept, but I think for me, because I know that I'm fine in my own choices and I don't need to explain them to anyone else, ultimately it's the ability to say, okay, you do you, buddy. Right.
Well, and also because whether or not the source of someone's ire is that in their opinion you're wearing a lady's piece, as we've seen, sort of the the darker side of the menswear community, let's say, if people are looking to complain about something or if they want to try to take you down a peg, they don't necessarily need an excuse like that. You might be wearing what you think is a very traditionally masculine outfit with very masculine elements, and somebody will say, I don't like that color on you, or that pattern is hideous, or whatever the case may be. But there are always going to be those who have a chip on their shoulder, and it's about, understanding, internalizing what they say and thinking, well, that's their take on it, but as you said earlier, they might just be having a bad day, or we might have different taste, whatever the case may be. But taking that on board and thinking, all right, I'll incorporate that as feedback, or I won't. And then also, just the more general note of not engaging with that sort of criticism, not rewarding bad behavior, and fostering more of that positive and inclusive place that we know that the menswear community can be at its best.
Absolutely. I mean, as we're talking about this, I'm reminded of that episode of The Simpsons where a red sock is included in the laundry and Homer has to go to work wearing a pink shirt. And this is the worst possible thing for him because everyone else is wearing a white shirt. But pink was originally a man's colour.
Indeed it was.
So where's the issue there historically? And not only that, but pink dress shirts are widely available.
Absolutely.
So I think there are definitely elements where in more recent history, certain things have meant other things or been attached to negative connotations or perceptions. And it's just about blowing the cobwebs away and kind of saying, I like this colour, I like this thing, I'm able to incorporate it, and if it's consistently getting negative feedback, maybe I need to listen to that and kind of do a little bit of introspective thinking. But for the most part, wear what you like.
Right, exactly. Do you think then that there is maybe an unfair balance in how men and women respectively can wear clothes?
I'm going to say yes, from the point of view that it's far more acceptable for a lady to wear a pantsuit than it is for a man to wear a skirt suit. Although the pantsuit for a woman is theoretically the same, could be cut from the same cloth, made by the same tailor, as a suit that a man would get. Of course, there are different body proportions, etc., but that's the same with any suit that's being made. It's still going to be made for a human, and we humans are naturally asymmetric. So yeah, it can be a good thing from the point of view of knowing how to dress. That sort of more simplified idea of shirt, jacket, trouser from a male point of view. At the same time, from that sort of gourmand perspective of wanting to try different things stylistically, I'm aware that there are still societal barriers that prevent certain crossovers from happening. Again, thinking about Homer Simpson here, wearing a muumuu is just going to look like a dress to a lot of people. And I'm not saying that, yes, I want the ability to wear a dress in public, because I really enjoy the classic age of men's style. But the fact that women are able to transcend both ball gowns and the pantsuit, there is a bit of jealousy that I feel.
Sure, yeah, I can understand that. And of course, again, if we look at either the historical or the cultural angle, looking at other things around the world, whether it's something like the kimono, for instance, or kilts in Scotland would be another great example, And I think as the ideas about strict rules falling away that we're seeing in our current day and age, and people having the freedom to wear what they want, I think that's a great thing. As you say, I think I'm in a similar boat. I myself personally do not feel any desire to wear a skirt in public, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to begrudge someone else who might feel that they want to. If it works in their wardrobe, and if they're putting together good-looking outfits or outfits that they feel comfortable in, who am I to stop them,
Exactly, and with that concept of the skirt, nowadays, and indeed when they were first becoming very popular in the 1940s, the Gurkha short is very skirt-like. When you look at the overall silhouette and the lines, they do come away from the leg. They're shorter than a pair of pants would be. And because of the voluminous pleats, if you stand straight with your legs together, they kind of do just look like a skirt.
That's fair.
So it's not as if there aren't items out there that are right up against the edge of the box towards just wearing the other gender's clothes. But I completely agree. If there are people that feel empowered by wearing different clothes to what society thinks is correct, ultimately it's not harming me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that brings us nicely to the last question that we've got on the list here, which is, do you really think, in this day and age or in general, that we really need to think of clothing as being gendered in the first place?
No.
Simple answer enough. Yeah, I think I would agree with that for all of the reasons that we've just discussed. It really does fundamentally come back to that idea that we have espoused often on the channel, which is wear what you like, wear what you feel good in, wear what you feel confident in, and that confidence will project.
Absolutely. I much prefer being able to take a step back from what the item is and become interested in what it's made of. the cloth of the garment. It could be a beautiful tweed, or a fantastic fresco, or something that is really exciting and engaging. For instance, I recently picked up a pair of 1940s Hollywood trousers in a gorgeous speckled tweed, and it's one of those things where I'm saddened at the fact that I probably won't be able to find that tweed again, because A, I'd like to make a jacket for it, and B, how cool would it be to find that tweed so that my partner could have something made in it.
Sure.
So yeah, it's definitely, think less about the garment and more about what goes into it. It's not just a pair of ladies' shoes, it's a velvet slipper. Who doesn't want to feel elegant in a pair of velvet slippers? So yeah, I completely agree with you. It should be about what makes you happy, what makes you comfortable, and ultimately, if you feel stylish in it, go for it.
Amen. Well, fantastic. A very illuminating discussion, as I was confident that it would be. So hopefully everybody takes a little something from this. And of course, as always, we encourage everyone to share their own thoughts in the comments below. And I think that will probably be all for today. So thanks again, Jack, for coming up with a great topic.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, definitely. I'd love to hear from more people about different ways to style these ladies' items. Yeah, get in touch.